Welcome to the Yogi Show. My name is Yogi Brian. I'm a co-host on the show along with Pedro Luna. Today's episode is sponsored by Ajna Wellbeing. Ajna Wellbeing is a holistic company founded by two sisters with a mutual passion in holistic health. I love Ajna. I use their products. I have their meditation cushion. I use it every single morning and it is still super comfortable. It is still fluffy. I love it. I want to lay on it right now. And we have a 15% discount code for you for Ajna. You can use Yogi Show 15, that's your code, at amazon.com/Ajna. So amazon.com/Ajna, use the code Yogi Show 15, you'll get 15% off. Yes, now let's get to the show. Today's show, we have Davidji on the show. Davidji is an internationally recognized stress management expert, corporate trainer, meditation teacher, Vedic master, and author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Destressifying, The Real World Guide to Personal Empowerment, Lasting Fulfillment, and Peace of Mind. He's also the author of Secrets of Meditation. He has an awesome story. After 20 years in business and finance as his career, Davidji began a new journey apprenticing under Deepak Chopra for 10 years as his lead educator and dean at his university. Super cool. Now Davidji travels the world teaching meditation to hundreds of thousands of people. I meditate to him on Insight Timer. His morning routine meditation is one of my favorites, but he has so many meditations out there. There's one for you. Check it out. You got to listen to this episode. Let's get to the show.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. Davidji, I feel like this is an enlightening moment just to be in your presence. Thank you for being here, brother. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show. I'm fans of you guys and enthusiastic fans. So it's great to hang with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What's up, Brian in Arizona? Good morning, brother.
How is it going, Pedro? How's it going, Davidji? I am so stoked right now. We're talking to Davidji. I meditate with you in the mornings, and now we're here on the show. How awesome is that?
Hopefully you meditated this morning and didn't wait till now.
I did. I did. Brian, did you meditate this morning?
I did. I meditated this morning, first thing when I woke up.
Absolutely.
Peed first. I peed first, then meditated.
I love that.
I did the awakening creativity meditation today, David. I've been doing that one a lot lately. With all the things that are going on in our lives, like, I don't know, just like everything I feel like I'm doing is in the creative sense. So I found that meditation. I've done many of yours before, but that one specifically lately has been really hitting me on the Insight Timer app. Sweet. And I just can't thank you enough for like holding space for me and millions of people to really sit down and ground and meditate. So thank you so much. That's really been amazing. That one's super powerful for me.
It's great. It's my pleasure. That's I've been doing that since 2003, creating just turn out the lights, open the mic up, and then do that thing. You know what that's like. And
pour the heart out, pour it out there, since 2003, you've been doing it. Okay, cool. So 17 years. Look at that, man. And just changing lives, changing lives. What were you doing before that?
Just in a nutshell, I began meditating in college. It was an experimental Asian studies class. There were 12 of us. We sat in a circle. Our Zen master stood in the corner. We were instructed to raise our hand when we had a thought. And in his hand, he carried an 18-inch bamboo stick known as a keisaku. And he would come over and whack us on the back. So we raised our hands. So I found myself essentially, lying to my Zen master and not raising my hand. And I pretty quickly left that type of meditation. And I dabbled on and off with all different types of meditation, from Vipassana to mindfulness to Tantra to mantra to chocolate tasting meditation to candle gazing, and some stuck for days, some stuck for years. But then I got involved in the corporate world. I started in the world of finance, trading bonds and doing kooky stuff like that. And I worked in the World Trade Center, and I noticed that as I got deeper and deeper into that corporate self-imposed stranglehold,
Mm.
that my meditation practice had slipped away. And I traded in my morning practice for an early morning train ride to the World Trade Center. I traded in my evening practice for a nice big glass of scotch. And like that, balance was gone from my life. And suddenly I realized, you know what? I'm not meditating at all. And I'm also really unhappy and empty and, all those things. And so in the wake of 9/11, I was walking past a row of cardboard boxes that people were living in. And as I walked past this particular box, this guy grabbed my pant leg, pulled me down into his box and said, "What's going to be on your tombstone?" Which is a fairly reflective moment, you know. And I was like so blown away and staggered with that, and wandered around, came home, and ultimately quit that world, left that world. And when I got home, my wife said, you should definitely quit your job. There's this guy, Deepak Chopra. He's doing a meditation retreat in Oxford, England. And I was like, all right, I'm fairly obedient. And I was like, so I quit that and headed off to the land of Harry Potter. And over those 7 days, pretty much by the third day of that, I suddenly, it was like my heart had been like this white linen cloth that had been dipped in black India ink. I was so empty and so sad and so purposeless. But by the third day of meditating, it felt like that cloth had been draped in this stream, and just cleansing it. And probably by day 3, I felt joy for the first time in, 20 years. And by day 7, I do probably what most people do after they hang out with Deepak Chopra for a week. I headed off to India in search of the guru, and traveled around India, traveled high, traveled low, bathed in the Ganges, meditated every morning, practiced yoga. I was lighting incense and traveled up to Dharamsala to see His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. He wasn't there that day. And really, as I was, after about 5 months of searching for the guru, I was laying in a hammock in a cashew forest in Kerala, southern India, reading the Bhagavad Gita. And I'd read this particular verse probably 100 times. It's chapter 2, verse 48, where Krishna says to Arjuna, Yogasta Kuru Karmani. And like boom, like a lightning bolt, that means establish yourself in the present moment and then perform action. And I was like, yes, that's it. So I raced home. And after hanging out at home for like 3 months, a friend of mine said, dude, all you do is sit around and meditate. And I was like, yeah, I know. Isn't that amazing? And they're like, no, you have to like share this with the world. You have to like, teach other people. And I said, I'm from New York. I don't care about anyone else's meditation. And so he said, no, your boy Deepak, he's got like a center in California. You should go out there and, become like a certified teacher or something like that. So I headed out, didn't know really, had nothing else going on in my life, headed out. Went to this workshop, which was a requirement for the meditation teacher training. And like on the third day, Deepak and his partner, Dr. David Simon, approached me and said, hey, would you like to be the COO of the Chopra Center? And I was like, not doing anything else. Sounds good.
I got some time.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I'm in. At the time, the center was in the wake of 9/11. Center wasn't doing so powerfully. And I said, that's what I do. I turn around companies. I've been a mergers and acquisitions advisor now for like a decade. So they were like, cool, come on in. And so, of course, I didn't know that it wasn't just like to run this global organization, but then I got certified, and then I started teaching people to meditate. And then I did that every day. And then I ultimately became the lead educator there. And then I became the dean of Chopra Center University. And that was like 10 years of doing that. And in 2012, I sort of like left that and began on my own, traveling the world, teaching people to connect to timeless wisdom and to the stillness and silence that rests within. So it's cooked out. It's an interesting journey, but
sounds like an amazing journey.
Sounds like an amazing journey. I want to know about the journey of your hair game, like your hair and your beard. Like I have beard and hair envy. with you
right now. Yeah.
Like I'm bald. Like I can't grow hair. Like I wish I had that.
This is sort of like my Robert Smith look. You know?
Awesome.
Sometimes it's my Sammy Hagar look, but this is my Robert Smith look.
Right.
Yeah, I just, it's funny. My beard was like really, I had like a solid foot there. And I don't know what, but I get so many comments on like, yo, Santa around December. So, or
a mindful
or
Santa, the most mindful present Santa that you can get.
That's it. Yogi Santa, they call me. So, and I was in England and people were like, yo, Gandalf. And I was like, you're killing me. So, so I figured, let me chop a little heft off of my beard. So I feel almost naked now. It's only like 3 inches. But my beard grows back. Yeah, I didn't have this hair when I was working on Wall Street, just so you know.
No, I assume not. I assume not. But you know what? David kind of reminds me of our friend Corey. Corey, he's got that long hair, kind of like that whole that vibe. It's so good, so good.
Awesome.
Davidji, these Deepak Chopra was started my meditation journey. So interesting enough that was the kickoff of your the rekindling of your meditation as well.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of those, the 21-day meditation experiences. Did you have a hand in creating those? Because I started.
I created those.
Like you're the guy.
In 2005, I was sort of like hanging out. At the time, I was I just like become like the lead educator. So I was teaching meditation every single day, sometimes 2-3 times a day. And I said, how about if we like created these like guided meditations? I'll do it. So again, I didn't have a script. And I just recorded 21 days of guided meditations, picking certain themes, acceptance or intention or forgiveness, things along those lines. And 5,000 people signed up. And I was like, cool, they're all free. And then I did it like 6 months later, the second one, and like 25,000 people signed up. And I'm like, damn, this is happening to me.
This is happening.
Did it 6 months later, and 100,000 people signed up. And suddenly I'm walking down the hall, and David Simon, the co-founder of the Chopra Center, said, hey, Deepak and I were talking. You're doing this thing, 21-day meditation challenge. I was like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Don't worry, it's not taking time away from anything else I'm doing. I'm helping, bring people, into our world. And they were like, oh, we're not upset. We want in. And so I said, okay. So David Simon goes, I'll take day 3, 7, 11, and 14. Deepak will take day 1, 8, 16, and 21. And I was like, okay, cool. And they go, prepare the scripts for us. And I go, there's no scripts. This is just you sitting down in front of a mic and leading a meditation and, talking about something. They go, no, we got to have scripts. So I was like, you just like stolen all the fun out of the whole thing, Right. So then they did that on like the third one. And then they said, this is so much fun. Let's invite other people in the Chopra Center to do that. So then we had like the head of HR and the head of the yoga program, and it was really, really robust. And I was like still really enthusiastic. And then sort of one day they were like, oh, listen, you're all out and it's Oprah and me. I'm like, oh, okay. But then boom, 1 million people started.
Of course. Yeah.
So, I guess I'm the one who like planted that seed. And like from that, like there's hundreds of 21-day challenges have popped up in the last 15 years. But that was like a really fun, cool thing. And then after that, after I left the Chopra Center, I created the 40 Days of Transformation. Because the funny thing was, I remember going to David Simon, and he goes like, why'd you pick 21 days? And I was like, oh, come on, 21 days is like the thing. Stephen Covey, he says, 21 days, and that's how you create a habit. He goes, that's absolute crap. It's 40 days. He goes, Jesus was in the desert for 40 days. Buddha meditated for 49 days. Don't you get it? 40 days. Moses wandered for 40 years. 40 is the number. 21 is only the halfway point. So I was like, oh, okay. So I created the 40 days of transformation. And I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting science on does 21 days build a habit? Does 40? Does a month? But I don't believe that. Well, for me, the reason I became a meditation teacher was because I don't have the willpower to show up every single day. But if I figured well, if I just get certified, and if I want to be authentic, I have to show up every day.
Right.
And this way it holds my feet to the fire. So I actually, became a certified teacher just so that I would show up every day. And that, of course, I never intended to share it with anyone or teach anyone. And,
Just the journey.
Yeah.
You kept doing it, and certified. And then, now you're on Inside Timer, and like, gosh, it's just such good content on there. And anybody out there, like, we're talking about habits, 21 days, 40 days, whatever it is. I mean, we're all different. Like, it took me 77 days. It took me 77 days until like I realized like I really like meditation and it's really helping me. Last February, I just, I'm a yogi, so I practice yoga and do all the physical stuff. And I really like challenge myself. I'm like, I'm going to meditate every day for 90 days and see what happens. Like if I don't like it, I'm going to stop it after 90 days, but I'm going to give myself 90 days every single day. Maybe it's a couple minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes. I'm not going to really like give myself pressure on the timing, but 90 days. And for the first like 30 days, I'm like, all right, nothing's happening. 60 days, I'm like, okay, like, is this like, maybe it's not for me. And like day 77, I was like, I will meditate forever. And I have been like almost every day, and just playing around with different meditation practices. And maybe we can touch up on that. There's so many different types of meditations that people can kind of get lost at the sea and like where to start. Do I do mindfulness meditation or quantum leap or chakra meditation? There's so many. And like, what's your advice to someone out there, like starting with so many different meditations?
That's such a great question. And that's really the reason that I wrote my first book, Secrets of Meditation, because every place I went, it seemed that there was like an agenda. I would go to like this teacher and it would be like, this is the way. And then I would go to another teacher and they would go, no, this is the way. And like another teacher would be like, whatever you do, don't meditate with your dog. They steal your and like there were like there were so many rules, so much dogma. I love dogs, but I don't love dogma. And so there were like so many rules that I said, you know what, I have to write the book that says it's okay to pick your thing and do it as long as you show up. So that's why I started doing the chocolate tasting meditations. And I believe that anyone can meditate anywhere. I've taught so many different types of people. Why don't we just do quickly a technique that I first used on Marines who had just come back from Iraq and Afghanistan at Camp Pendleton, which is up the road from where I live. And I sort of like went there. I was like tricked into going there. I didn't really know what was going on. And my hair was a lot longer than this. And I was wearing a giant Om shirt at the time and, with a big beard. And like suddenly I came into this room and there's like, 14 guys who had just come back from Iraq and Afghanistan. These guys were like, ripped. And I felt so puny and so pathetic, so like irrelevant. And like, what could I possibly teach these guys? And, but I really, I just in talking to them, it's like, so what's going on? And they're like, we're traumatized, we're stressed out, we're having problems coping, we're emotionally wounded. A lot of us are physically wounded. I mean, it's intense. So I figured, well, I'm not going to call it meditation here. I said, well, I have a beautiful technique called 16 seconds to clarity. And they're like, all right, let's do that. So why don't we do that now?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
So think about something that's been bothering you this week. Don't go too deep. This isn't therapy, but something that disturbed you. Someone said they were going to do something, they didn't. Something was supposed to unfold a certain way, and it didn't. And just get clear on that. Just an irritation, just a little bit of a disturbance going on inside you. And now close your eyes and through your nose, take a long, slow, deep breath in and watch that breath as it goes down. And when it hits your belly, hold it there and watch it and witness it and observe it. And now release it and watch it as it moves up your chest, through your throat, out through your nose or mouth. Keep exhaling, keep witnessing it, keep observing it till it dissipates into the ether. And when it feels comfortable, slowly open your eyes. Breathe normally. And if you were playing along, and both of you guys, your eyes were closed, I was like, you were in.
We're in.
If you were playing along, you were not in the past. You were not in the future. That was 16 seconds. And in those 16 seconds, you truly connected to the present moment. In fact, if you were playing along, you weren't thinking about that thing I just asked you to think about.
It's
That
not, yeah.
right?
Man,
So what
I'm
we just
tripped out.
proved is, not just, well, that is technically meditation, but what we proved is that, hey, I can drift my attention away from whatever I think I'm thinking about in the past or the future, get fully present just by witnessing my breath. And if you do that 4 times, it's a minute. Do it 20 times, it's 5 minutes. And suddenly, so it's really funny when I was teaching these Marines, they were like, we love that. Can you come back tomorrow and teach us? I was like, it's 16 seconds. It took me 45 minutes to get through the security phone, and they're like, I don't know, please come back. So I said, okay. Then the next day, could you come back again? So I came back every week we did a 16-second meditation. The next week I came back, we added a minute to it. We did a minute and 16 every single day. The next week, 2 minutes and 16. We did that every single day and every single week. I had to travel and had to leave a couple of times. But right now, these guys are meditating for 25 minutes and 16 seconds every single day because they started it so incrementally. And I originally had called that technique 16 seconds to Ananda. No one knew what that meant. Then I called it 16 seconds to bliss. Seemed too little woo-woo. Then 16 seconds to clarity. And then when I started teaching that to cops, because I work with law enforcement now, I called it tactical breathing. And
Awesome.
You got very serious when you said that, David.
yeah, right. Well, that's it. I get that very serious face and I go, let's raise our awareness with some tactical breathing here. And everyone's like in on that one. The funny thing was I started, I invited everybody who follows me on social media to practice the 16-second technique and hashtag 16 seconds. Because, and take a picture of yourself in some fake meditation pose or hand mudras or something along those lines. And so that was going on for about, 3 months. And then Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did she knock somebody?
Rousey started beating her competitors in 16 seconds. So she started hashtagging 16 seconds with people in that death lock and with her elbow on people's tracheas and about to snap someone's neck off. So if you just click on the hashtag 16 seconds, you'll see the yin and yang of life. You'll see
awesome.
People in blissed out meditation poses, or you see Ronda Rousey, just coming off the top rope, coming down on someone to flatten them and snap their head. So it was, I became a fan of hers just because of that 16-second connection.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's so good, David. And that really knowing what Brian's question was so profound. When you asked that question, I was like, yes, that's something that would definitely add value to the listeners and to people around the world that Davidji's already been doing. But just that it doesn't have to be one certain way, and that in reality, it's you have to do what is right for you within the time constraints or whatever you got to work with. Just show up fully as you are with whatever you got to work with. Do your best, leave it all out there, and then keep going. You know what I mean? And not be hard about oh, I only did it for a minute. No, I got to do it for a minute, or I did it for a minute. It's flip the script on that.
Yeah. We know that so many of our decisions are ruled by hormones and chemicals coming into us, whether that's a fight flight, whether that's a reactive response, whether someone pushes our button, whether we have some preconceived notion of how something's going to unfold and then it doesn't, we're pissed off. And this technique, even just 16 seconds, suddenly creates a break in the action between what was coming into us, that whole stimulus response kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It puts a little pause in there. They call it a pattern interrupt scientifically, but it just creates a break so that your next word, your next thought, and we controlled our thoughts. We totally directed our thoughts with that technique. Your next action actually has just a couple of, maybe a millisecond or maybe 16 seconds before you respond and before you do the conditioned, predictable thing, which typically usually is not your best expression. Mm-hmm. And so really what I consider meditation is the powerful tool to help you make better choices, to help you not only sleep at night and lower your blood pressure and do all those scientifically, biologically proven things, but to really help us be a little more conscious, a little more thoughtful instead of thoughtless, a little more mindful instead of mindless, a little more unconditioned. That doesn't mean unpredictable. It means just not succumbing to that same freaking pattern that's been running, in your head for the last 20 years.
Yeah, the same program over and over and over. Yeah.
Yep. Same program over and over. And like when I talk to people about starting a meditation practice, because it's one of my passions, just because last year was so like, I really didn't do as much physical yoga. And that's something I'm going to do in 2020 is get back to more physical. Cause like I feel stiff, like pretty stiff because I've just been like sitting doing meditations in the morning. But when I talk to people, like explaining how awesome meditation is for me, they're always like, oh, I can't sit still, or my mind's wandering all the time, or, and a part of me before I started this meditation journey, a part of me didn't meditate because I felt like I needed the room perfect. I needed Nag Champa incense. Like I needed a shrine. And then I'm like, how do I build my shrine? Like I probably need a Buddha and like
Got to get the chimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davidji with the chimes.
That was on point, Davidji.
Right.
That was on
Davidji
point.
with the chimes.
But yeah, it's like environment, and you can do it anywhere. You can meditate anywhere, right?
Yeah, that reminds me of like the story. I guess about like, I don't know, like 2007, I had just taught this person to meditate, and we had practiced together for like, I don't know, like 2 weeks, every single day. So like they got it in. They were like hooked up, and so I'm hanging out in Encinitas, which is down the road from me, and I bumped into them. I was like, "Yo, how you doing?" And like, "Oh, amazing!" And so like, since most of my interactions with all human beings are about meditation, one of my go-to lines is, "So, how's your meditation practice?" So said like, "So, how's your meditation practice?" And he was like, "Oh, the Buddha's coming today." And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, yeah, the Buddha's coming today. I go, yeah, but how's your meditation practice? And he goes, no, the Buddha's coming today. And I thought he was like, had lost it a little bit and like waiting for the Messiah or something like that. And, so I was like, no, tell me, how's your meditation practice? He goes, oh, well, I haven't meditated since we parted company, but on our last day, I ordered a Buddha from Sri Lanka, and it's coming today. And so once that's set up in my special altar meditation room, then I'm going to sit down and meditate. And I was like, you're killing me.
Right? Yeah, that's
so classic.
You're missing
that's
it.
classic. And I'm sure other people out there listening right now are feeling that same way. It's like, I want to meditate, but I have pets, cats, dogs, birds,
Kids.
turtles, like,
Kids,
you got animals. And I love watching Peaches. I love watching your stories.
Peaches,
That's like a meditation for me. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm in the present moment watching Peaches.
Peaches is Davidji's dog, everybody.
This is my opportunity for a public service announcement. Adopt your next pet. I adopted Peaches, or she adopted me, in 10 years ago. And she's an LA rescue, and instantly she taught me, resist nothing and you will receive unconditional love. And as a type A New Yorker Taurus, I'm a fairly good resister. Now that I've revealed that I have to move and begin my life again. But Peaches has taught me over this decade to just like stop resisting, stop putting up walls, and let the love come in. And that's what she teaches me. So she's a mindful Morkie. She's a Maltese Yorkie. She actually likes to skip. I brought her to like 10 different vets, around the country to like, my dog skips. Does she have a luxated patella? Is there a knee issue? Does she have tender paws? What's the deal? And they all say, she just likes to skip. So I have a skipping dog that's like so joyful all the time. That's like a powerful message. Well, that's my PSA. So
yeah, I love that. I think more people need to skip out there. If you're out there, skip to your car. Like, have fun. Like,
we used to skip all the time. I'm trying to figure out, when did we stop skipping?
Yeah. That might need to be your next meditation. Skipping meditation.
Make it happen, David.
We stopped skipping probably around the same time that we used to do like staring contests when we were little. Yeah. And then suddenly we're like, there's something happened in our lives and we became like very, very protective and like, stop looking into my soul, into all my deep, dark secrets. So, the moment we were unwilling to do a staring contest, and that was the moment we stopped skipping. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that happened that we can like bring back into our lives right now.
Yes. Bring back the staring contest. Bring back the skipping, everybody. Let's have some fun.
Enjoy life.
Walking's boring.
Yeah. Skip to my loo. David, tell me. So with Peaches, I see you all the time on Instagram, like Brian said, walking the dog, taking Peaches to the beach. So obviously you must live really close to the beach. And I've seen these like community gatherings that you do or that you've done that, it's people meditating on the beach with you. Is that something that you started like as like a newer into or you kind of went to the Chopra Center right away, so you had that thing going on, but like there's plenty of new yoga teachers and new like meditation leaders and stuff that listen to this show, and so like creating community around something is really obviously really important. So is there a community that follows you to the beach? Do you do something there with the community out there?
Yeah, it's really, one of my sacred values. Everybody has 5 to 7, just like companies have core values, and we have, what's really, really important. Like, why do you do what you do? It helps really unfold that answer. And for me, creating community and holding space for a community has always been really important. Considering that, like back in 2005. That's what I did, sort of like created a virtual community when I started like building up the Chopra Center database and creating that online meditation community. I've since, in 2012, I created the Davidji Sweet Spot community. And I travel the world. I'm on the road probably 300 days a year. So
oh, wow.
That brings me to a lot of different places because there's a lot of people who are not going to come to Southern California where I live. But I started doing events at this place on the beach, and I would rent this giant, ridiculously large house, and then that's where I hold all my events. I call it the Meditation Nest, and I don't give the address out unless you actually are attending the event, because we've had tons of people just like show up and go like, I'm here. I tracked you through a photo that you posted. I did some geolocating and I brought my daughter here. We've flown here from Dublin. Can we hang out with you? And I'm like, obviously, yes.
They're like, the hair was pretty easy to see on GPS.
Yeah, right.
So then they're like, he's right there.
Satellite photo. And so we started, meditating before sunrise, because that's when I do, I meditate, pretty much to try to share my practice. So it's totally authentic. I'm not asking anyone to do anything I wouldn't. So I usually wake up around 4:30, rise, pee, meditate, do a little yoga, take Peaches for our daily walk, write a little bit, do a gratitude practice. I've got that pretty much locked in. So we started going out on the beach, taking the people at our events, which everyone's not used to waking up at 4:30 in the morning and getting out there in the dark. But when you're sitting 20 feet from the ocean, and then suddenly like the sun comes up, and that's your meditation timer, and then we go and do yoga on the beach, and we get people hacking our meditation all the time. So people come now from all over the world. They know, they say, what's the schedule for this upcoming event? And it's in Carlsbad, California. And so we've had people come from Moscow just for the meditation. If there's like on all the solar eclipses, we get like 50, 100 people hanging out there. And it's really one of the joys of my life to just like, because most people, it's sort of like a sexy way of getting up early. It's like, dude, wake up really early, come down to the sand, put your toes in the sand, feel the ocean, breathe that ocean prana. It's like a whole, and all we're doing is just like, and now let's sit in silence and do nothing for a half hour. But if you're going to drift away to the sound of the waves, what's a better place to drift to? So yeah, I think community is really, really important to me. And social media is really important to me. I think that, a lot of people are like, no, stop spending so much time on social media. I watch a lot of TV. I watch at least 4 hours of TV a day. I'm on social media. I'm meditating consistently, at least for 30 minutes in the morning and at least for 30 minutes in the afternoon. Sometimes throwing something additional in there. And my life is really about connecting people to the stillness and silence that rests within them. And, Brian, even though it may have taken you 77 days, on one of those days, you were like, oh my God, what just happened? Mm-hmm. We're not looking, we don't meditate so we hit that thing. I believe that we meditate just simply to cultivate our ability to witness. That's it. Yes. That's all we're doing. But suddenly, when you have cultivated your ability to witness on a daily basis, suddenly it's like taking off really dark shades. Suddenly everything is more beautiful. Everything's lit up. You're a little more patient. You're a little more creative, as Pedro said. You're a little more, it's that classic line, Lao Tzu's line from 5,000 years ago. Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Well, there's a second part to that quote, which is, can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? And so most of us don't. We have to like get in there, make the call, do the text, push the button, do the thing, blow through the light. And suddenly if you get rewired from meditating.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I don't need to like knock that person over as we're boarding the plane. It's not taking off till we all get on board anyway. So there's a deeper understanding. And I believe that has awakened within me, and I'm hoping in all the members of my community. And, there's, people follow me on Spotify and Amazon and iTunes and Apple and Tidal and Insight Timer and Unplugged Meditation and Daily Om, all that. So it's about 1 million people a month are downloading or streaming my meditations. And so, I'm just leading them to their heart. I believe that all those people, and I get, hundreds of emails every day, which are like, oh my God, I did that thing, that meditation, and boom, my heart cracked open, or suddenly I made peace with my past, or like I discovered my purpose. It's like, I'm not the one creating that. I get emails all the time like, should I dump my loser husband? And I'm thinking to myself, probably, but what I'll say is like, well, why don't you read one of my books or do one of my meditations, and that'll put you in a better space to make that choice. I don't know if you should. I don't know who the bad one in that relationship is or the toxic one is, but I know that if you meditate, you'll be able to figure it out and then make a more conscious choice.
What's up, everyone? It's Pedro. I'm so grateful that we had Davidji on this episode of the show. I hope you were enjoying it as much as we did recording it. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Ajna Wellbeing, for supporting the show, and then we'll get right back to our conversation with Davidji. As you know, Brian and I have been using the Ajna Wellbeing products for some time now. They actually just came out with some new bolsters for all you restorative yogis out there and at-home yogis. And we've actually been enjoying them so much. We just received them last week. So they're giving us a discount code to give you. If you want to go to amazon.com/Ajna, which is AJNA, you can use promo code YogiShow15 and get 15% off your purchase. The meditation cushion is amazing, and you are going to be meditating after listening to this episode of the show. So if you want to grab a meditation cushion, a bolster, a yoga mat, or an acupressure mat, or whatever they got in store for you, please feel free to do so at amazon.com/Ajna using promo code YogiShow15 for 15% off your purchase. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And for me, meditation has been self-study. Now when I meditate, some days are great. Some days I have aha moments. Some days I'm just like, wow, that was like, should I continue to do this? But it's like a continuous practice. And it is like, I love that you said like routine, like your morning routine. And morning routine for me is like super important. Like, I wake up early, 4:30, meditate, write a gratitude journal, just write my intention for the day, because I take my morning, I take my day, and like I have control of it because I started in the morning. Like meditation for me is just like finding, like really seeing what's going on inside me, taking that breath, like, like, why do I need to look at my phone, or like, why do I need to respond to that notification? It's just more of like the question, like why, and just sitting with it and really like self-study. So anyone out there, like if you don't have a meditation practice, you may have a great aha moment the first 10 days. Like you're different than me. It took me 77 days. Like some people take 44 days, 21 days, but just stick with it and you'll just kind of see what's going on in there, right? Like you'll see what's going on inside you.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much research that's come out since 2012, but really there's been an acceleration in the last 18 months. And a lot of these research studies, and they're University of Massachusetts, Massachusetts General, Harvard, Yale, University of Wisconsin at Madison, University of San Francisco, they do these studies, and it seems that the studies are 8 weeks, which is 56 days. Now, I don't know if that's, excuse me, I don't know if that's because one of the techniques that they're doing is mindfulness, and they're following the MBSR, the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction program of John Kabat-Zinn. But they do their research studies for 8 weeks. And then they put MRIs on the brain, and they really map the neurological, the neuroplasticity, and like what's going on, what's growing, what's shrinking, what's getting lit up. And so now they know that in 56 days, and listen, if they did a 5-week study, they would find these results as well. But they're all 8 weeks, so it's 56 days. It's less than 2 months, and they know that in less than 2 months, in 56 days, this is like a landmark study. Everyone who participated in this particular study from 2012, 30 minutes of meditation. I hesitate to tell people this because I like people to meditate twice a day, but they only meditated once a day, 30 minutes of mindfulness for 56 days. And all of the test subjects had a 5% plus increase in their hippocampus, which is the part of the brain responsible for learning, memory, spatial orientation, hand-eye coordination. That's when we have a memory, that's where it gets like etched into. We don't know where memories are stored, but that's where it initially gets etched. And all of these participants also experienced a 5% plus decrease in the gray matter of their amygdala, which is the part of our brain responsible for fear, anger, anxiety, and unfamiliarity. So imagine that. Just with 56 days, you increase the part of the brain that's learning memory and spatial orientation, good stuff, and you shrink the part of the brain that's all about fear and anger. And that's in less than 2 months. So like we know that. So there's a lot of these 8-week studies. So even if you're not necessarily feeling it, the world around you is feeling it. So Brian, on day 50, you might have said, I don't feel anything. But everyone in your life is like, Brian used to be a dick.
Yeah.
And now he's like so loving and open-hearted and patient and compassionate. Like what how has he been taken over by an alien? So like they're not telling you this though. They're like wait and see if it sticks. But like that's the beauty of meditation. We're not sensing, gee, I'm more patient in this moment. We're not sensing, gee, I forgave that person and I normally I would have plotted their murder. We're not doing that. We're suddenly the world around us is shifting. So I believe that we transform the world by transforming ourselves. So I believe, Brian, you finally felt what the entire world was already experiencing on day 77.
That is profound. That's true.
I bet all the people in your life, definitely the people you live with, were like, damn, if we had known about this, we would have taught him to meditate 20 years ago.
They're like, yeah. Brian, can you meditate for 5 hours a day, please?
Can you sit for longer, please?
Yeah,
that's amazing, man. Brian, Brian inspired me. So, on and off, I've been meditating for years, and every time the 21-day challenge comes out, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. And then I do it. I get to like the bonus day of day 22. And I'm like, forget that. Like, and then I'm just like, I'll just start again tomorrow. And I just never start until the next 21-day thing. So Brian's really encouraged me to start recently, consistently again, for like the, umpteenth time. And it's amazing. So again, like, obviously this conversation is like hitting home on meditation. So just start. Like this is the silence is loaded with answers. You see that on t-shirts and quotes everywhere, but the reality is like, that's so true, And yeah, absolutely.
Well, we spend so much time, even if we're introverts, we spend so much time emoting, speaking. We pray, which is talking to God. We're asking for favors. We're begging for stuff. We're telling people, our most recent opinion on, how the wrapper on this candy bar used to open better than it does now. I mean, we're in the world of opinions now. We can tweet any irrelevant, stupid thing, and people are like, no, you should open the candy bar left to right. And so it's like all this crazy stuff. But we don't spend a lot of time listening. And so even if you're very religious and you've been praying to God or your higher power or some entity for all these years, okay, well, you may say, well, I'm very, very devotional. I sit down and pray, which is essentially asking for stuff. And we don't spend enough time listening to answers. So then we say like, God hasn't heard my prayers. Well, have you stopped for like 5 freaking seconds and allowed maybe an answer to come into you? And so I think really what meditation can do, if you show up with consistency, it makes you a better listener. You start listening to maybe you can hear the whispers of your heart. Maybe you can hear the whispers of the divine. You definitely will hear the people that you live with that you've been ignoring because you've been zoned into your own device and doing your own thing. You'll hear nature. You'll hear suddenly, you'll hear the world, and suddenly you realize, probably 50% of the conversation that I have is irrelevant. Passing it through the 3 gates. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? A lot of things are true. Not everything is kind, but most of that is not necessary. It's necessary, like get out of the way, there's a bus coming. That's necessary. But pretty much any, people pontificating and opining on stuff, it is not. So I think that just inherently we become better. Again, we're cultivating our ability to witness, so we become better listeners. And I think that if your relationship is struggling in any way, probably it would raise itself up and get a much higher vibration, probably if you just listened a little bit more, probably if you paid a little more attention, in all of our interactions. And so ultimately, we could say that meditation really helps you be more purposeful, which goes back to what Brian was saying with like that GPS thing. We don't have to enter coordinates into our car GPS every time we get in there, but the higher likelihood will have the most direct route if we do enter those in. We can wander around. There's nothing wrong with that. And just because you enter the GPS coordinates in doesn't mean you have to go to that place. You can take detours and you can stop. You can change your mind. But when we meditate and when we connect to that stillness, suddenly it's like, there's actually, I'm a little more purposeful now. I'm going to do things that can help heal and serve others, help heal and serve myself. I'll practice a little more self-care. I'll take better care of myself because I can do a better job. Suddenly there's clarity on, what you're here to do right now. I believe, it's this concept, in Sanskrit, it's called Dri, D-H-R-I, Dri. We get it's the ancient root. It's like a 10,000-year-old Sanskrit word. We got the word dharma from it, but there's no actual English translation for dharma. In modern times, we call it like purpose or meaning or duty or obligation, things along those lines. But 10,000 years ago, Dri actually was a force that simultaneously held all the stars apart, pushed them as far out, going infinitely, and yet at the same time wrapped its fingers around the entire universe and held it together. It's like gravity and anti-gravity simultaneously. And the actual definition of Dri was that which upholds. That which upholds. And so if you think about just this concept, like what is that force of nature? What is that universal law that's holding all the stars apart, pushing them out infinitely, and yet wrapping its arms around the universe and holding it all together? So what is that which upholds this entire existence? So I often will ask people, like, what's your personal Dri? What is it in your life? What is it that which upholds? What is the ground on which you stand? What are you here for? And I believe that changes, it can change every 6 months or every 3 years. The ancient wisdom teachings teach us that we're all here for a purpose. But I think if we can zoom in to a Dri arc and see for the past several years, the Yogi show has, it's clear this is your purpose, and maybe this goes for 20 years and maybe it morphs into something else. And then your purpose is to do something else. But clearly your purpose, at least from a takeaway, and I'm not creeping into your head or your heart, is to touch people and help people awaken to their best version. And, using this thread that everyone, can connect to who listens to your show. So I believe that everyone has this Dri, D-H-R-I. And if you're from Queens, we call it Dri. But in Sanskrit, it's Dri. And, I believe we're all in this space right now, where the universe is beckoning us, where there's we're being called to step into something, especially at the beginning of a new year. What an ideal time to double down, to reinvent, to recreate, to rebirth yourself. Because I have friends who signed up they joined a gym on December 20th. They went once on January 2nd. They haven't been back, and it's been like 2 weeks. And it's like,
Yeah.
And they're locked in for 12 payments. So they can't even escape. Very, very expensive 1-day workout. But, we have the chance to like say, you know what? That was so yesterday. Today, I reinvent myself. Today, I put a stake in the ground. And I believe that you want to figure out your purpose, get quiet. You want to figure out why you're here, get still, and listen. But you got to do it every day. You can't like, well, oh, okay, God, gave you 5 minutes, didn't come back to me in time. I got to move on and get on social media.
Right.
So at least if we create a space every single day, a window, to hear, the universe, to listen to our heart, to just quiet the noise. Classic yoga sutra, yoga chitta vritti nirodha, oneness is the progressive quieting of the fluctuations of our mind.
Yes.
So that's it. We're not trying to stop thoughts. We're not trying to hit nirvana. We're not trying to have the aha moments. We're just trying to quiet down a little bit so we can hear
Yes.
a little bit better.
Yeah. So you can hear a little bit better. And I love everything you said. Just so on point, and especially just being consistent. Like anybody out there, like you got to be consistent with it. And one thing I noticed, like sitting in my practice, like it takes me like just 5 to 10 minutes just to settle. Like when I sit, like my mind's just all over the place. And I've like learned to just be like, okay, this is the normal process. Like my body just got out of bed, or I just walked from here to here. Like my physical body just needs to settle. My mind's going anywhere. And then after that 5 to 10 minutes, just like any exercise or any practice, you do a yoga practice, you have your warm up, you got to settle, and you got to get your body into it. You got to get your mind into it. So yeah, get there, settle. And like one thing you were saying too is, like when I was getting quiet, I was listening to what was going on in my head. And one thing like I realized is I'm a fast starter. And that's why I never stuck with meditation or like most things. Like it's tough for me to finish it out. That's just one of my things. Like I'm a fast starter. I go all in, and then I'm like, oh shit, like I have way too many things to do. Or like I wanted to meditate for 2 hours. I'm going to start a meditation practice. I'm going to meditate 2 hours. And I'm just like, this is so torturous. I hate it. I can't do it.
It's like people who go vegan, overnight. And they're like, well, I was eating steak, but now it's celery juice for me, and I'm only going to eat salads every meal. And they can pull that off. And after like 2 days, they're like, I probably should have been a little more incremental in this process.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
I know what
about meatless Mondays. How about I try that instead?
Yeah, like baby steps too. And that's why the 16 seconds meditation, like anybody can do that. Like you're saying, anybody can do that. Try that for 100 days. I don't know. Try that for a long period of time, and you're going to get benefits from that. And then you're going to do 32 seconds.
Yeah, increase. Just go from there.
Incremental.
Incremental, man. Well, Davidji, this has been amazing. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, spilling your knowledge and all the things you got going on. We wrap up these shows. This is a perfect segue with the lighten up round. Okay, so it's just like just a couple fun questions. Think of like a lightning round and other shows, but these are off the wall. But this has been a great conversation. We've had so much fun. So I think Davidji's probably gonna have the best answers out of anyone we've had on the show.
No pressure.
No pressure. So Davidji, Brian, you go first. You're the wild card. Go hit us with the question.
All right, I always ask these questions, David. Davidji, you've probably seen these on my story. I ask like random questions. So and they're mainly around enlightenment. So who do you think would attain enlightenment faster, Mickey Mouse or Pluto?
Oh, I think Mickey Mouse. I think he's got a lot of pressure on him. No one's paying attention to Pluto. He's not even a planet anymore. But Mickey Mouse, all eyes are on Mickey all the time. So he has to show up authentically, so people know when he hasn't meditated.
Right. That's awesome.
Okay, David. So if where would be the best place, the better of the two places to lead a meditation experience?
You guys are so funny.
Mars, or Venus?
Oh, Mars or Venus? Well, I saw Matt Damon in that Martian movie and it scared the shit out of me. So, like, I don't think there's, actually, I think he was eating poop.
Yeah.
So I say
Probably not that.
Venus sounds just a little more love-filled, a little more divine feminine, a little more Shakti energy. So I prefer that kind of. I always prefer that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tree there because it's a greenhouse.
There you
Very
go.
together.
Right.
All right, Brian, one more.
All right. So who would be a better meditation teacher? A great white shark or a lion? Two very vicious creatures.
I say great white. Classic lion Leo stuff is a lot about, hey, check me out, look what I'm doing. Whereas the great whites pretty much come in, yamp a couple of seals, and just like, there's not a lot of fanfare. We make drama about it, but they're not like, dude, just ate all the seals in the cove. They come in, they yamp, and they move on. So I would feel, my definition of a great teacher is someone who has the ability to step out of the way and just channel all the timeless wisdom. So I would say definitely great white.
Great white shark. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I feel like the lion would be at the gym like a lot, like you're saying. Like he'd be lifting.
Right.
Probably CrossFit. Like,
Give me 10 more.
Yeah.
Davidji, this has been so much fun. Seriously, brother, a pleasure and honor to be in your presence and to have you lead the 16 seconds, the meditation on our show, and all the things, and the lighten up questions were so good. So we really appreciate your time, and we're gonna sign off for this episode. So, Davidji, is there anything that we need to know that you got coming up in 2020 that people need to know about before we sign off?
Yeah, I have a bunch of meditation retreats. They're like Monday through Sunday, where you'll learn your birth star mantra. We meditate like not all day, but probably 3-4 times a day. 2 of the days are in silence. We're waking up, meditating on the sand, practicing yoga on the sand. It's called spiritual awakening. And truly by the end of that process, everyone has just had their aha moment. But I've got something going on every single week, someplace on the planet. And so I would just invite people. I've got over 1,000 guided meditations. Most of them are free, and a lot of different courses out there. So if you, if free is, listening to free guided meditations is the way that you can connect to stillness and silence, definitely check me out. I think I've like 30 on Inside Timer and a couple of courses there as well. Find your place. Just show up where you are. Let's not make excuses that I have cats or kids or a tough job. Everybody's got something going on. We only have 24 hours, and we get to decide, where am I going to put my time and attention? And if I had known way back then that I could just connect to stillness and silence for 30 minutes in the morning, and that would set the trajectory of my day. And that may sound very, very intimidating, or Brian, 77 days in a row. One day at a time, one meditation at a time, one breath at a time. And whether that's 16 seconds or 5 minutes, we know that we're better when we can do that. So check me out. Follow me on social media, Davidji Meditation on Instagram, and Flow of Love on Facebook. And so between those two, there's probably enough resources to keep you going for like a solid 3 years.
Heck yeah. And I'm coming to one of those retreats you have. I was looking at your schedule even before the show. Like I'm coming this year. So you're going to see me there, and we'll make a meme together.
I can't wait. Love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Pedro, for inviting me. You guys are transforming the world, and it's I'm honored to be a part of your trajectory. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You always say, I'll see you in the gap, and I guess this was the gap, brother. So thank you so much. Yeah. So thank you for being here. Namaste, my friends. We'll see you soon. Namaste.
Namaste.
What's up, friends and listeners? I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Yogi Show podcast with Davidji. You're going to be meditating soon if you're not already. And maybe you did on this episode of the show, just like Brian and I did. Impromptu, a 16-second meditation, and boom, just like that, you're meditating. So If you haven't meditated yet today, go back to the middle of the episode, put on that 16 seconds of bliss, and check it out. Start somewhere. Just start where you are. Allow this to be the invitation to do so. Thank you so much once again to Ajna Wellbeing for sponsoring the show, for being a proud supporter of the Yogi Show podcast. You can grab all of your amazing products from Ajna Wellbeing on Amazon, going to amazon.com/Ajna, which is AJNA, just like the chakra. And you can use promo code YOGISHOW15 for 15% off your purchase. Grab a cushion because you're going to need to sit somewhere comfy with a nice long straight spine and allow yourself to sit with what is and bask in the bliss. Check out theyogishow.com for all the show notes on this episode, where to find Davidji, and to check out our sponsor, Ajna Wellbeing. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to bringing you more next week. Namaste, my friends.